Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to the alpha for Warhammer 40k Dark Heresy, where today we get a taste of the local Kroot culture, even if it can be a bit hard to stomach at times. I imagine this will be a pretty talky episode, so let's get right to it. Let's have words with War Shaper Kroek. Obviously not our biggest fan, but hopefully willing to give us some leeway since we helped save Graktar. Still do not recognize me as a battle companion, Graktar? Alright. Alright. I will wait. The soft skin saved you from withering, so gather your strength. We will hunt together again. Nice, yes. So, we've got a good in there. The Warshaper looks imposing without the deceptive frailty of his kin. Sculpted muscles, scars all over the body. The claws of the right hand are blackened, and a grotesque burn scar stretches up to his shoulder. The Kroot's quills are adorned with rough metal rings and fishbone beads. Among them, a human ring stands out, bearing intricate engraving. First, the battle with Lone Eye, then those of my blood went mad. And now another outsider is sniffing around. Okay, so he's familiar with Scrag, whose ring he's probably wearing. Wait, didn't we already have the ring? How do we unlock the datapad? I'm gonna have to double check that. Might have been his tattoos. Ring might be for the mysterious lock we found on the secret door nearby his camp. Did you also drag the inedible into the roost? I should cast you both out. But you helped in battle, so I will make an exception. For you, not for the creature. The Xenos does not even glance at his mute kin. Well, I certainly appreciate your restraint, and I like what you've done with your quills. There's almost a familiar ring to it. This is a sign of respect. A gift. Tykk brought it, a hunter of the vein. You like it? With a swift motion, too swift for one with such powerful claws, the Kroot removes the ornament from his quills and hands it to you. Take it, Atvaka. You helped me in the fight. I repay my debt. Oh, okay, well, that was easy. And yes, it's even just straight up called key ring. With what looks to be... Well, I mean, I guess the skull is used for a lot of things in this setting, not just for the Inquisition, but yes, I would say that is probably what we use to open that secret door. Well, again, I appreciate it. So how's your friend here doing? Your pet? Your Graktar? We call them Krootoks. They are our siblings in war. Were. Then only one remained in the roost. Do not approach him, Softskin. Graktar is clever, but only listens to his rider. The Kroot puffs out his chest proudly. Me. You recognize these creatures. Krootoks are distant relatives of the Kroot themselves. The massive beak and spiny protrusions on their bodies. It's hard to miss the similarity. Do you see this power, Atvaka? When the Krootoks smell blood, nothing can stop them. My Graktar lives for combat, but this time he could have fallen to the claws of those maddened of my blood. You helped, Atvaka. I promise to repay you. Take this. Striding through swamps. Boots which grant +5 agility and immunity to being immobilized. Very nice. I mean, I would question why a Kroot has human-sized boots, but given what they eat, maybe best not to pry. Thanks. Tell me, I passed a strange metal tree on the way here. Saw signs of Kroot activity around it. Any thoughts? The Iron Tree? That place is forbidden. We lost those of my blood who hunted nearby. We barely returned their flesh to the roost. Saved the strands. I forbade the hunters to approach it. Tykk supported me in this. Yeah, I guess that would make it a pretty good place to stash bodies that you don't want your tribe to stumble across. So tell me about the inedible. What's that all about? Why should I speak? You're a stranger, Atvaka. Your presence promises nothing good for the vein. Are you 1,000,000% sure on that? Because I'm fairly certain that I just saved you, Groktar, and your entire tribe from itself, like 5 minutes ago. You are saving your own skin, Atvaka. Will you claim otherwise? I mean, yeah, I could have just turned around and walked away. It's not like I was trapped here. But fine. Fine, I see how it is. What can I do to loosen your beak? Ka! What could an Atvaka do for the vein that those of my blood could not? The Warshaper suddenly pauses, tilting his head to the side in a bird-like manner. Then his black eyes lock onto the Ogren, and his clawed hand immediately gestures toward Cog. Find and bring me another big-headed Atvaka like this one. For the ritual. He will become a worthy opponent for the Awakened One. This way you will serve the vein. Will you do it? Oh, I mean, I do have access to a spare Ogren, but, I mean, I'm not crazy about bringing him to this little meetup. With a menacing growl, Cog watches the Kroot's hand intently, ready to rip it off at the first strong move in your direction. You, just to clarify, you are talking about Ogren, right? Like my friend Cog here. Why? For the Awakened One. A worthy opponent in the ritual will awaken the slumbering root. A good fight will help him remember. The Awakened One? I'd love to know more about that. Maybe that'll help convince me. A great warrior. One whose strands descend from heroes of the past. From the day he came to be, my brother and I knew. We sensed it. His is the blood of an ancient root. He is an offshoot of the Great Ones. We have been preparing him for awakening. All that is left now is to help him remember. He will decide who is right, my brother or I. He will determine which branch the vein will follow. Sure. And what exactly happens if he takes your side? You stick around and keep eating locals? Yes, we will continue hunting these grounds, even if madness overcomes some of my blood. The rest, the strongest, will adapt. It is a sacrifice necessary for the vein's survival. I mean, that does leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm not saying no. I'll at least consider it. The Kroot indifferently shrugs his shoulders, a strangely human gesture. Whether you do it or not, decide for yourself. I do not expect much from you. Wow, you got over that whole repaying me thing real quick. But fine, yeah, sure, fair, I guess. Would you at least tell me a bit more about your tribe? I'd love to know more about, what makes you tick. Just trying to put my finger on the pulse of your vein. No, you are still a stranger, Atvaka. Okay, gotcha. Fine, then we'll set aside the social niceties. Do you know what this is? I found it just outside your camp. Someone had taken pains to hide it. No. Prove that you are good for the vein. Okay, maybe I should make this a bit clearer. This device was found next to my man Rufinus Scragg. He was dismembered and scattered in the swamp. Don't suppose you'd like to talk about that, lest I should start assuming the worst. The outsider lingered around the inedible, tried to speak. The flesh of the outsider is forbidden to the Tykk vein, but the inedible is no longer part of the vein, and there is little suitable flesh in the swamp. It is hungry. Your companion hisses, the quills on its neck standing up. But as soon as the Warshaper casts a casual glance at the inedible, it goes silent. Looking at you, your companion shakes its head, clearly denying its involvement. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it, bud. I know it's not you. In fact, he basically just confirmed it. Right, I'll be back. At any moment, the great water might cover the roost. You are lucky. You have come while it slumbers. Do not drag it out. Do not steal time from the vein, or we will all be swept away with the roost. Like last time. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they've been displaced by flooding before. Interesting. And yeah, he did basically confirm that our inedible friend here, Raiti, did not kill Scragg, because if they had, they would have eaten him. They ate the head that we gave them earlier, but whomever killed him did not eat him. They dismembered him and disposed of his body, which makes sense given that the tribe was ordered not to eat him. The crude lines form a schematic, yet surprisingly accurate map of the surrounding lands. These are not idle drawings, but a means of recording useful knowledge. Neat. Let's go chat with Scrod. We saw him when we were scanning around last time. I think near the big pile of corpses over yonder. We cannot interact with Graktar, which is fine. I can't imagine he'd really have much to say. So, yeah, let's track down Scrahat. Ask about that ring. That's where we came in. Oh, there you are. Scrahat. Scrahat Tykk. Also, free armor. Preflex armor. Crute only. Whenever the wielder is attacked, the attacker gains stacks of exploit. Each turn, the wearer's first attack against each target inflicts +2 stacks of exploit, regardless of whether it hits or not. Also completely useless to us. At least until Raikti officially joins. Human bones adorned with flaking gold-plated buttons. Such buttons are supplied by the ton to the regiments of the Centillan Fusiliers. Okay, that is a very noteworthy discovery. It implies the Crute clashed with the local Imperial Guard. The bodies of the maddened Crute are piled into a shapeless, bloody heap. The survivors eye them with barely concealed fury. My skin senses it. The water will come again soon. We must build rafts. Then we can go into the sea and eat fish there. The Shaper forbade eating fish, but in the sea there is that which eats fish. The Shaper did not forbid that. Will you show me how to make a raft? Oh, interesting. Okay, so the Keeper clearly recognizes the water in general as being the source of the contaminant. How is the arm? Ready to fight? We will soon face Lone Eye's warriors again. Rot take the roots of the softskins. I have been feeding since the last battle, but this wound will not heal. Fear is how I fall. Confusing what is real. Respect the roots, warrior, even those of others. The Otvaka from the filthy roost fight well. I have torn softskin hides before, but these ones under Baron Lone Eye's command are as vicious as if they had eaten flesh from Gottlieb. No one in these hunting grounds fights as fiercely as they. Right, yeah, and of course, confirmation that the Baron is in fact Lone Eye. I mean, I feel like context made that pretty obvious, but I suppose it could have also been like the leader of the Ferals. Though I suppose in retrospect I don't actually recall it saying anything about him missing an eye. Yeah, I think the Baron's the only one who's conspicuously missing an eye. I know because I used his profile picture in one of my thumbnails. Aside from a peony, I mean, she's wearing an eye patch too, but that's really more of a fashion statement. Then Lone Eye must have given them strong strands. Or something else. No matter, there will be more battles. Heal up. We will return for you. Interesting. So confirmation that the Kroot and the Baron's men have been clashing, despite the supposed deal. Though the Kroot have also clashed with the local Imperial Guard, which, to be fair, might both be because of Rufinus Scragg, since he was explicitly trying to find a way to strengthen the tribe for use as potential mercenaries, as stated in his various records. Which does seem to be the most likely thing that got him killed. Still eyeing the Fleshmaster for that, who should be around here somewhere, though we haven't seen him yet. I do think Croak having the ring is another misdirect. But let's chat up Skrahot, see what they have to say. Kata, where are you? Where are you? The Xenos looks lost, its quills flattened. Noticing you, it sweeps its beak from side to side, inhaling air. Its black eyes linger on your weapon. As you approach, the Xenos recoils, seemingly ready to leave, but hesitates. The inedible cannot remain in the roost, Otvaka. But with you, Skrahot wishes to trade. Skrahot, he needs help. Well, I was just on my way over here to ask Skrahot some questions, so perhaps we can help each other. Slowly, the Xenos lifts a clawed hand and taps his chest. It seems he is introducing himself to a human for the first time. I am Skrahot. Skrahot has lost his mate. Oh, okay, so he's a full-on suspect. Well, I'm not really looking to date, but perhaps I could find out what happened to your old mate? I'll need more details. Skrahot's mate has vanished. The Xenos trembles with unease. She did not return from reconnaissance. If you find Ukata, and tell me, Skrahot will trade. You like weapons, Otvaka. You reek of death. Skrahat will give you for the hunt. Yeah, sure. Well, when did you last see her? Though I suspect we already know where she is. Okata went with Kroak's kin band on reconnaissance. None returned. None but Kroak. Kroak said that the swamp took them all. Yes, I mean, that is technically true. They are in the swamp. Have you tried looking for yourself? Any places you've already checked? Skrahat went. Skrahat searched. Skrahat could not find her. But now the Shapers forbid. After the massacre, few of my blood remain. And it is a dangerous place to wander alone. Skrahat cannot disobey. The vein is above all. Sure. The flesh shaper Tykk went to the swamp after Ukata vanished. Skrahat believes he went seeking Ukata and the scouts, but he returned alone. Skrahat did not ask. It was clear to Skrahat that the shaper did not find Ukata. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that right there, that's another huge mark against Flesh Shaper Tykk. Because now we know that he was out and about after Agent Scrag got that pict of Kroak concealing the other dead Kroot in the swamp. We also know that he's the main one who's prohibiting them from eating Gergesum-tainted meat, and Scrag was uneaten, whereas Kroak is saying they should keep eating people. I'll certainly have a look around, but, I mean, I've got to ask, what if it's already too late? If so, then Skrahat must consume her flesh. Many good cuts. Ukata was a fierce huntress. Took prey's head in a single strike. Yeah, I'm not sure that's the best idea, but, I mean, I'll certainly see what I can do. Skrahat was not mistaken about you, Otvaka. Ukata wore a bone amulet shaped like a hook on her chest. That is how you will know her. Ah, the plot hook, yeah, I'm familiar. Which does confirm we have already found her. But, you know, before we say anything that might shut this guy down. Hey, before I go searching, do you mind if I ask some questions? It might help me find her. Like, what was up with the infighting? Why were your tribe waging war against each other when I first arrived? You think something similar might have happened with her? Flesh Shaper Tykk says, they of my blood have succumbed to madness. Now the flesh of Otvaka is forbidden. Consuming it would defile the roots. Scraw! But once the Awakened One remembers his past self, he will help the vein. The Awakened One. I'd love to know more about them. Sounds like a real eye-opener. A descendant of a great warrior. Even the Shapers must listen to the Awakened One. Interesting. Back on the subject of the swamp. The War Shaper, Kroak, he did mention that you apparently found a ring out there? Could you maybe tell me where you found it? That way I'll know where you've already checked. The swamp took my mate, and I went searching. Saw it on the ledge. It gleamed. Beautiful. A gift for a warrior's quills. For Tykk. Then the Flesh Shaper forbade leaving the roost. So the swamp would take no more warriors. Right, okay, so that's got to be the ledge just out in front of camp, where we saw the vision of Rufinus being killed. The assumption being that the ring came off during the struggle. We did find the datapad nearby. Whereas the rest of the body was concealed past the iron tree, which was an area already forbidden. Okay. Tell me, have you heard the name Rufinus Scrag? Skrahat knows an Atvaka with that name was in the roost. Tykk forbade eating the outsider, calling him an honored Atvaka. But the outsider left the roost after the battle with Lone Eye's Vein. Skrahat heard no more of him. So Scrag and Uir were on good terms, at least for a while. Which does track, because as we saw with the psychic vision, there was a profound sense of betrayal and regret when Rufinus was killed. Well, that would make sense. You didn't see him because he was dead. I found his body out in the swamp. I don't suppose you know anything about that. The swamps are a perilous place, even for those of my blood. Only the inedible dwells there. But Kroot do not abandon good meat. And the inedible was once a Kroot, implying that had they killed Scrag, they would have eaten him after. The inedible? Tell me about them. It was one of us until it broke the Shaper's law. The inedible was exiled from the roost, and they of my blood were forbidden to take in its strands. Its evolution has ended. A terrible fate. Is it? I mean, I feel like that's kind of hard to swallow, but sure, I guess. Well, look, speaking of fates, I'm sorry to say this, but I did find something while I was out and about. I don't suppose this looks familiar? I actually found it not far from where I found Rufinus Scrag. Yes, she never took it off. Even the quills on the Kroot's head droop somberly. You have kept your word, Atvaka, and so will Skrahad. Take this for good hunting. Skrahad must find her, must preserve her strands. Oh, buddy, that's really not a good idea, but, I mean... Yeah, alright, I guess we'll see how that turns out. Also, another Kroot-only item. Feels pretty safe to assume that we're not too far off from officially recruiting Ra'ikti. Shame to lose the amulet, though, because, like, based on what we're seeing with these items, it really was kind of designed with them in mind. But I suppose it's all a trade-off, you know? You either keep the amulet or you complete this particular side quest and gain additional info plus the rifle as a consolation prize. That's fair. And honestly, personally, I'm much more invested in collecting clues than the occasional extra trinket. Alright, let's see if we can track down Uir. He should be around here somewhere. Also, we should see if we can find this awakened one. That is also technically another potential suspect. Brings our pool up to 5. Ra'ikti, Kroak, Uir, Skrahat, and now the awakened one. Among the pile of meat, one can notice parts of the bodies of the Kroot. These Xenos waste nothing. I'm assuming that's non-tainted Kroot meat? that does seem to be their general catch-all food pile. Bulgrin's Mace. Ignores half damage reduction. If target is burning, ignores full damage reduction. Okay, I mean, that's not terrible. Picked Monocle Triumph. Whenever the target of the wearer's precise melee attack suffers vitals damage, the wearer gains +1 morale. Oh, that might actually be nice on Larthir. Assuming, of course, he's willing to lower himself to using human tech. Look at that. Very nice. And as for the mace, ooh, yeah, that's also a pretty nice step up. Double upgrade, we'll take it. Hopefully we actually get a chance to use this stuff. I know we're getting close to the end of the current alpha. Not here, no, not here. Damn Advaka flesh. It muddles the thoughts. That does seem to confirm that it's more than just the hunting party that was exposed to Gergesum. A whole swarm of softskins is wandering through the roost. What is that pack doing here? The cunning softskin who spoke with the flesh shaper must have brought them, if it is a fight they want. No fighting. This pack has helped us, and the cunning Atvaka fled after the slaughter with Lone Eye's warriors on the far shore and never returned. Perhaps the swamp has taken him. Unfortunate. The flesh shaper needed him for trade. The Vane has no need for weak allies. If the cunning one could not survive, he was not so cunning after all. Interesting. Slight added context as to why the Flesh Shaper tolerated Scrag, at least for a while. Raise your head, Chichanak. In this dark hour you give the Vane hope. What do you remember? Flesh and bones crack in the beak. Poisoned winds swirl in the quills. Who am I? Your memory is still weak. It is normal. Go, help it unfurl. Fight, shoot, eat. It should help. Eat. Yes, I want to eat. The whirlwinds of stars tormented me for too long. I need to put meat on my bones before the battle. And there we go. There's our last two key players. Flesh Shaper Uir and the Awakened One. Tachunuk? Yeah, Tachunuk. The Pekra flew over the swamp again, probably hunting down the mad ones who fled there. Kesva! Why does good kin associate with the inedible? The Pekra should have stayed in the roost. Oh, right, yes, that's Ra'akti's bird, which has been mentioned sporadically, but hasn't really come up much. Though based on what we've seen, it sounds like they're a cross between the operative class and the overseer. Exploit plus animal companion. And speaking of which, there's the back entrance. That's where we first met the inedible, Ra'akti. And here's our Awakened One. Let's see what they have to say. My head. So many thoughts. It is easier not to think. Quieter. Uh-huh. The bubbling drink resembles a thick resin of a dirty, rusty hue. Its acrid, rotten scent chokes your throat and tickles your lungs. The water of memory is for the awakened one. Touch it and you will anger the roots. Noted. I imagine we'll probably have to find like an ingredient or something for him. It does seem like each of the named Kroot here has a side quest for us. A good catch. We will dry it, and we will feed for many leaf falls. Unless the flesh shaper forbids eating this catch too. Cut the skin from the bones of the Atvaka. Let's stock up. They're standing right behind me, aren't they? Do not make eye contact. Alright, so based on what we're seeing here, I'm going to say that T'Chunuk is probably not really a valid suspect since we couldn't interact with them all that much. They're more likely the replacement for whichever, leader we end up ultimately pointing the finger at. Let's see what Uir has for us. The Kroot's gaze stretches far beyond, through thick walls, the rotting sea, and drainage pipes, beyond even the borders of Hive Sibelis. You have come to trade knowledge, soft skin? Oh, okay. So maybe it wasn't food that Scrag was offering, though, obviously he offered that as well. I wonder what sort of knowledge he's looking for. The Kroot casts an uneasy glance toward the shoreline. Let us speak, but not for long. No one knows when the great water will strike the vein again. I see it already creeping toward our hunting grounds. Last time we fled into this roost. Now, there is nowhere left to run. The Xenos' amicability vanishes the moment he notices the pale-skinned Kroot from the swamp standing beside you. The stench of the inedible in the roost. You are foolish to consort with that creature. It is carrion cast out by the vein, spoiled flesh that will rot in the earth after death. Its strands will never again become part of the vein. The Shaper speaks of your companion as if it were not standing right there. You notice that the pale-skinned Kroot itself is looking away, eyes downcast. You've ordered your tribe not to attack me. Same with my predecessor, Scrag. And the humans of Merisportum. I appreciate the gesture, but I do have to wonder. Why? Is it out of kindness or simple self-preservation? I am the Flesh Shaper. I sense the strands within the flesh our hunters bring back. I decide what those of my blood must consume to develop their potential, and what must be left to rot. You have seen with your own eyes the madness that tears at the vein. The wisdom of the roots surfaces in my mind as lessons from those who came before. My instincts cry out to me. The vein must be cautious. We came to this wretched land, consumed the strands of your kind in hopes of gaining strength. But we found only rage and frenzy. Though my brother Croak is stubborn, we must leave for another place. A better one. He is a warrior. It is hard for him to understand the voice of the roots. Right. Yes, you and your brother, you spoke about the roots and the awakened one, how he would, settle your dispute. Obviously, you're pushing to relocate. Yes, the awakened one is the best among us. The one in whom the strands of the roots grow, the strongest, the most useful. To Chetnuk, a young hunter carries the fine strands of an ancient hero. If the ritual is completed, the awakened one will judge between me and my brother. I see. And when exactly is this ritual going to take place? I'd certainly be curious to see which decision he comes to. When you tell me you are ready to leave the Tykk roost, soft skin. Forever. Until then, those of my blood have time to mend their wounds. To prepare. Well, let's not be too hasty. Like I said, both I and the local folks of Merisportum do have a vested interest in seeing exactly what his ruling might be. Can I at least stick around to see that? You have aided the Tykk Vein in its battle against those maddened of my blood. You saved Graktar, our kin, and yet... The Shaper falls into deep contemplation. No, Softskin. I cannot allow outsiders to witness the birth of a great root. The Vein would not understand. You would not understand. Right, of course, and as we all know, the best way to try to understand something is by avoiding it as much as possible. We'll revisit this later, perhaps. Uir Tykk nods. So your brother, Croak, he certainly seems intent on sticking around. We arrived in these hunting grounds recently, during the last migration. Before that, we wandered through the tunnels of the Antvaka roost for a long time. Those of my blood grew weak from lack of food. Weakness bred fear. Fear bred desperation. When we emerged into these lands, those of my blood fell upon the fresh flesh of the softskins who lived in the swamp, then on the others, further in houses of stone and steel. But we were weak. Under Lone Eye's leadership, the Softskins drove us back into the marshes, and so we began eating the dwellers of the Rotten Sea, whose flesh is foul. Right, the ferals and the fishermen, both mutated by exposure to the local waters, which is also the source of Gergesum. The Vein lives on, only as long as it feeds on good flesh. We need strong strands, or the Vein faces oblivion. We will lose our adaptability, ossify, and join the ranks of beasts that know neither reason nor growth. This fate is worse than death in battle. The Flesh Shaper shudders at these words, an invisible weight settling on his bony shoulders. For a second, you see not only a strong and resolute leader, but a weary, desperate one. Croak Tykk believes that only this awaits us in the tunnels. Yeah, I guess I get that. Fear of the unknown makes people do desperate things. So what exactly do you mean when you refer to my associate here as being inedible? The creature broke the covenants of the roots, and my covenants. It lived alone in the swamps. Softskins should not have gone to its camp, should not have had dealings with it. It was dangerous. You speak as if it's already dead. If that's the case, then why do you care what it does now? Because pruning the Vein's rotten offshoots is my burden. The creature will not return to the roost. To us, it is the past. Okay, so it's the past, but you're also saying I should still be scared of it? I should fear the past? The inedible did not follow the Vein's laws and was cast out. It survived alone for a long time. Such hunting is difficult. It was hungry and could have devoured anyone. Any soft-bodied one would have been a desirable prey. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we did find human remains in its camp, though at least some of those were provided to it by Scrag. It is still a man-eater, though. The Xenos behind you shifts its quills uneasily. When you turn, you see it staring at the ground, fists clenched. The Kroot is angry, but does not dare to challenge the Shaper. Understood. Let's move on. Good. I no longer wish to speak of those whom the leaves have buried. Right, of course, I'll leave it be. You came with questions, Softskin. You got your answers. Now help the Tykk vein. Then I will share new answers to new questions. The Kroot matter-of-factly tilts back its sharp beak. When Lone Eye's pack forced us to retreat to the shores of the Dread Sea, the first great water came. It washed away the roost. The vein had to flee again. That is how we found this place. But at the border of this hunting ground, the Iron Tree awaited us. It seemed dead and withered. I sent the kin band to gather the flesh hanging from its branches, and the hunters perished in its treacherous traps of metal roots. My brother and I decided never to approach the tree again. And so, we left it to sleep. But what is the vein to do now? On one side, the great water creeps slowly toward the roost. On another, Lone Eye's Otvaka lurk, waiting. On the third, the Iron Tree stands, a path only the finest hunters can traverse. The vein is caught in a trap that is about to snap shut. The Kroot points a claw toward the bridge of your nose. You are no ordinary Otvaka. You smell of strength and cunning. I sense it in your strands. Convince the Iron Tree to spare the Tykk vein, and we may trade new knowledge. Or leave forever, and I will proceed with the ritual. A fair exchange. Think. Choose. Yeah, okay. I mean, we're already on decent terms with that guy. I think we can probably work something out. Honestly, I imagine it only really took exception because you were trying to harvest its strange fruit. So, I mean, really, as long as you're willing to pass through without doing that, I imagine it would have no issue with it. Since fighting you just for the sake of fighting you would be a waste of resources. Which it certainly can't afford after we destroyed half its security retinue. Okay, so we've got some potential leads. Side quests for Kroik and Uir, both for additional info. But then also, the mysterious ring, which in theory, I think is for the sealed door, which I am starting to suspect is probably Scrag's actual base of operations, as opposed to just like the open little camp on the side of the cliffs. Feels like an agent of the Inquisition would probably want something slightly more secure. Looks like we're running a bit long, but let's at least go review the clues we picked up during those conversations. See how it all plugs into our current theories. Oh, goodness. Yeah, we've got a lot of new stuff here. All right, okay, let's start with the big one. Flesh Shaper Uir Tykk. Responsible for the development of the clan's strands, believes that the roots of the Kroot reject the flesh of the local population, and thus the clan must migrate deeper into the hive in search of a superior sustenance. Hypothesis. The agent's influence made the Flesh Shaper uneasy, so the blasphemous Xenos decided to eliminate him. Which, I've got to say, is probably our strongest hypothesis yet. yes, that does more or less match up with what I was already assuming. Following the massacre in the Roost, he imposed a ban on consuming human flesh, believing it to be the cause of his kin's madness. Not wrong. That is almost certainly the case. The hunter Scrawhot witnessed the Flesh Shaper venturing into the swamp shortly after the hunter's return from distant hunting grounds. The excavation site. He granted the agent the title of Honored Atvaka and allowed him free passage into the Kroot encampment. Yeah, I mean, all of that leans towards our already standing theory. Scrag gets on their good side, points them towards the Baron's men. Several of them go berserk and kill each other. Croak conceals the bodies. Uir finds their fate after, and in a rage, kills Scrag for the perceived betrayal. The movements of the Shaper's left shoulder are stiff and pained. Armor conceals the wound, making diagnosis difficult. Plasma burn perhaps? I mean, obviously not conclusive, but certainly matches our assumptions. Especially given that it's covered in... well, it doesn't mention if the armor is new. But if it's a spot he normally keeps covered, it would explain the discarded armor plates we found just outside Scrag's camp. Right, okay, so nothing really new there. That just basically confirms that it wasn't Scrawhot or Uir who disposed of the dead Kroot. That was definitely Croak. Which, again, does make sense based on the events as we understand them. Though we do have something new for him as well. Led a scouting party into the swamp from which none returned. Right, and now we know why. Hunter Scrawhot. A clan hunter searching for his missing mate, a female named Ukata. Yeah, probably pretty safe to say he's not our guy, though we should find out what happened to him after he ran off. Claims to have found the signet ring on one of the ledges at the edge of the swamp before the Flesh Shaper forbade anyone from leaving. Several deep claw marks score the thick hide of the Kroot. But no burns. So yeah, I think we can rule him out. Though he would make a convenient fall guy if for whatever reason we decide we don't want to incriminate one of the two standing leaders. Submerged Kroot remains. The amulet found near the remains belongs to the huntress Ukata. She disappeared while hunting in the swamp with the War Shaper. Maddened by exposure to Gergesum, killed and quietly disposed of along with the rest of the hunting party. Killed, but notably not consumed, which means that even Croak wasn't crazy enough to eat their tainted meat. Although he is, at the same time, still encouraging them to continue consuming tainted human meat. Perhaps with the delusional belief that because he somehow survived it, others might as well, if they're just strong enough. Baron Lonai. We already know him. Leader of the human settlement on the shore of the Toxic Sea. The Kroot refer to him as Lonai. Hypothesis: the agent's life is taken by the lower hive vermin known as the self-chosen alias, the Baron. Manufactures the combat stimulant Gergesum. The Baron is troubled by a fresh stab wound inflicted by a bandit from the Ferals. The Baron has forbidden his gang from venturing into the swamp due to the Ferals and the aggression of the bog beasts. The Baron's gang makes extensive use of Gergesum, increasing their combat effectiveness and survivability. Okay, so basically a full-on straight transfer from our other clue board. Stuff we already knew, but good to have it on the board. Rufinus Scrag. Immediately after the slaughter between the Kroot and the Baron's gang at the excavation site, the agent gathered his belongings and departed the Xenos encampment. Right, because as we saw in his notes, He then realized his experiment had failed, that Gergesum was too dangerous. As, yeah, largely echoed here. I'm actually surprised it's not updated to show that he realized the experiment had failed. Hypothesis: the agent tried to enhance the Kroot clan through the consumption of flesh from the bandits, pumped full of Gergesum. Yeah, that sounds about right. We'll go ahead and lock that in. It's funny because even though we are, further and further sort of cementing the case against Utyr, it is starting to paint him as a bit more of a sympathetic character. Which, I could see being a good reason to not necessarily ultimately point the finger at him, even though he is probably guilty. Oh, shoot. I have the wrong hypothesis locked in here. Must have clicked it by accident. Though I do find it interesting, they're still considering the Warshaper a viable suspect. The Fleshshaper is an unknown since we couldn't visually see what his wound was. I mean, I guess the Warshaper did technically have an old burn, but I feel like that would probably be too old to really qualify. But we'll leave that. We'll leave that be for now. I imagine at some point we'll get a better look at Utyr's shoulder. Conclusion: the Baron killed the agent for exterminating his people with the help of the bog beasts. I'm gonna say probably not, but that is a thought. Signet Ring, a finely engraved human-sized ring, stands out amongst the primitive adornments on the Warshaper's quills. Offering to the Warshaper from the clan hunter Skrahat. A silver ring with an embedded vox key from the gates of the Bastion Serpentis. It likely belonged to Millicentilia's agent. Didn't we also find a separate ring? I feel like we did. No, we found a data key. Right, okay, so this positively identifies him as the figure seen in the pict we saw, confirming he was still alive when Kroak went out to conceal the bodies. Though that doesn't mean that Kroak didn't kill him on the way back. Though again, circumstances would certainly seem to imply that it was actually Utyr afterwards. Though I would not necessarily rule out the Baron, since it did bring up a good point that he could have been intercepted. I mean, his death... Well, no, that doesn't make sense, because we saw the vision, assuming that the vision is accurate. It was definitely a Kroot. Yeah, I mean, it's all pointing towards Utyr. Unless they hit us with a sudden curveball and reveal someone else, like Tykk has a grotesque plasma wound. Or that there's some other named Kroot we haven't encountered yet. I mean, I guess if I had to really kind of pick at one potential problem here, it's that we don't know who the Mad Leader was. We know that there was another third leader of this tribe, of the Roost, who went mad after exposure to Gergesum, and then we literally just killed them during the fight that we walked into. There's no real narrative for that character. They're just a character that was there and then died. But in theory, they could also play into this intricate web of plot threads that have played out around it. That does create a bit of a disconnect between the simple need for combat fodder versus the intricately assembled investigation. But, much like finding Scintillant Fusilier gear on the local cultists' bodies, it's probably something you're not really supposed to think too much about. It does feel like that's kind of its own separate thing. Combat is just really there to provide more meaty, tactical gameplay content, not necessarily to play directly into the rest of the investigation gameplay, which is a bit of a shame. They should be better meshed. That would be a minor quibble I have thus far. But, aside from that, though, I will say I'm really into it. I do enjoy the combat. I very much enjoy the investigation. It's funny because going into this, I really, really assumed I would like being an Inquisitor less than being a Rogue Trader, because a Rogue Trader, you know, they have a lot more inherent wiggle room about how they're played and portrayed. But this has genuinely caught my interest. I very much enjoy this. I also honestly just really kind of appreciate that we're exploring one of the more exotic species of the Empire. They really got fixated on Drukhari back in Rogue Trader, and I've got to say that those guys got old quick. Kind of the same with the Eldari. Like, I did find them more interesting, but, you know, their whole dumbest smart guys in the room shtick kind of got old as well. Though Nocturne was fun. I like Nocturne. And I mean, I've got to say, you know, given how much they keep bringing it up in conversation, I am genuinely curious how much this location might change if we hadn't come here first, quote unquote. Not like we had much choice. The Scintillan Spires aren't actually a location you can go to in the current alpha, which we will be doing in the full launch series. You know, as I've said before, we'll definitely swap the order we go to the locations in there just to see how different it actually ends up being. But it does seem like it might be pretty significant, you know, giving you some pretty decent replay value there. That's it. We'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping. And we will pick up here next time, as I do feel like our investigations are starting to wend their way to an end. But we'll see. We'll see. We've got 3 leads to follow up on, so we'll see where those lead. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Arrow Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Rowan Church, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.